It's not uncommon for an artist to be inspired by another artist from another genre. Jamie Foxx chose his stage name as a homage to Red Fox, while Sinbad got his name from the sailor based on the old stories. Comedians and entertainers sometimes ditch their given names in favor for a name with star power. That same goes for the late Ermias Joseph Ascadon, who was better known by his stage name Nipsey Hussle. During the funeral for Nipsey Hussle, Minister Louis Farrakhan referred to the rapper as Nipsey Russell. Now, according to the U.S. News, Hussle had said his stage name was a play on the rhyming comedian from the 60s and 70s, Nipsey Russell. This nickname was given to him by an older friend while he was growing up because he was always hustling and a go-getter. Nipsey Hussle made an impact in his own industry and decided to play by his own rules, which is part of the reason why he was inspired by comedian Nipsey Russell. Now, Nipsey Russell was born Julius Russell in Atlanta, Georgia. The name Nipsey comes from his mother only because she liked the way the nickname sounded. Russell got his start in comedy in the 1940s at the Atlanta Drive-In, The Varsity, where he would make customers laugh and earn bigger tips. Now, it wasn't long before he began performing in nightclubs and developed an act for himself. Before Nipsey Russell broke through the mainstream, black performers were subject to playing a servient-type role when it came to entertaining. Oftentimes, black comedians would act as part of a duo with one member acting as the straight man and the other as the funny man. This was used because many found it controversial for a black man to directly address social topics in front of a white crowd. Only in The Rise of Nipsey Russell, Tim Rogers, and Red Fox did black performers get to play themselves. They paved the way, widened by the civil rights movements of the 1960s for the likes of Dick Gregory, Godfrey Cambridge, and of course, Bill Cosby. John J. O'Connor, New York Times television critic. Russell refused to play the step and fetch it type character on stage, which adds to the legacy of Nipsey Russell. Dressed in a conservative business suit and tie, but wearing a raffish pork pie hat, he offered a confident, sophisticated approach to comedy. Mel Watkins, New York Times writer. Ermias Joseph Ascadon was born in August of 1985 in Los Angeles. He attended Alexander Hamilton High School for a period before dropping out after being accused of breaking into the computer lab. He later joined the Crips. During his youth, he was sent to a juvenile detention center. It was around this time that Ascadon started rapping and going by the name of Nipsey Hussle. Hussle's work involved gang and street life. His rhymes were filled with observations. The same thing with Nipsey Russell. He entertained many Americans with his observational humor built around rhyming words. Throughout the 1950s, Russell reached national fame by appearing on television. Starting with the variety show, The Show Goes On. The show aired between 1950 and 1952 on CBS. Russell also appeared on Showtime at the Apollo, Rhythm and Blues Review, Rock and Roll Review, and Basin Street Review. There, Russell would continue to build his chops, telling jokes in rhythm. This decision was made in order to separate himself from the other acts out there. Russell's rhyming style began as a panelist on Missing Links. Host Ed McMahon invited Russell to say goodbye to the audience, and Russell rhymed. The next show, Russell did the same thing. Now, according to a biography on Encyclopedia, Russell had memorized around 600 four-line poems. Russell's strategy was to write backwards. Russell had built a style all on his own, and his rhyming approach to comedy made him unique. The rhyming capabilities of Nipsey Russell is what set him apart from his peers. This could be another reason why Nipsey Hussle was so inspired. As Nipsey Hussle began to climb up the rap ranks, he sold tapes out of his car, which led to creating a fan base for himself. In 2013, he made headlines when it was revealed that he would sell 1,000 copies of his Crenshaw mixtape for $100. Jay-Z would go on to buy 100 copies for $10,000. According to the XXL magazine, Hussle made over $100,000 after charging $100 for each tape, which put him on the map. As the civil rights movement continued to gain national attention, Russell decided to add more material about racism and social commentary into his stage routine. The 1960s brought Russell even more success, as he was a guest on The Ed Sullivan Show and The Tonight Show, causing Russell to be seen by an even larger audience. Car 54, Where Are You?, Match Game, Hollywood Squares, and The $50,000 Pyramid were shows that Russell was seen on. Russell had even become the first black performer to join a network game show as a regular panelist. The 70s allowed Russell to capitalize on his newfound fame as a Hollywood actor. He began appearing in more TV and film while continuing his live performances that got him noticed. Russell's most known role was the Tin Man in 1978's The Wiz. That was followed up with guest appearances in shows like The Love Boat and 227, along with movies like Wildcats and Posse. In 1994, Russell reprised his role as Police Captain Dave Anderson in the film version of Car 54, Where Are You? According to the website Black Past, which focuses on African American history, Russell had memorized over 600 poems for his nightclub and television gigs. Russell got notoriety on top shows like Ed Sullivan and The Tonight Show back in the 1960s. Now in the 90s, Russell was introduced to a new audience by being a guest on Late Night with David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, and The Chris Rock Show. These were the new titans in late night and brought Russell recognition among younger comedy fans. Unfortunately, Russell would die in October 2005 from cancer, but his legacy continues on, especially when the younger generation decides to pay homage. Nipsey Hussle used the name Nipsey as a public showing of respect and was able to capture a legacy of his own through the use of rhyming words, much like Russell.